Without further ado, we are pleased to welcome the Director of Player Development for Team Israel Baseball America, a 2017 World Baseball Classic team member, and a member of the 2021 Israel Baseball Olympic team, Mitch Glasser. Thank you for
Danny,
joining us
Miles.
today.
Thanks, guys.
So, Mitch, I just want to just start off, in general, kind of starting from the beginning. Where did your love for baseball start? You've obviously had a very successful career. You've accomplished so much. Where did everything start for you?
Yeah, thanks, guys. Thanks for having me on. It means a lot, and it's just such a cool thing what you're doing because Judaism, baseball, that's such two important things. They're so important parts of my identity,
Yeah.
and to be able to put it on a world stage and eventually wear Israel across my chest and combine the baseball and the Jewishness. And that's what you guys are doing here at the podcast. So special beyond. So thank you for having
Thank
me.
you.
And it all started in Chicago. I was born in Chicago and into a baseball family. My mom's side, they're Sox fans, and my dad's side, they're Cubs fans. So my parents got divorced when I was really young, and then I had to choose sides. And so, that was fun. My dad's taking me to bleacher games at Wrigley, and then my mom's taking me to Sox games, and so it grew up for just a love for baseball here in Chicago, playing t-ball at Hamlin Park for those who are Chicago natives here, and playing at Hamlin, Horner, Wells, and so it all started here in Chicago.
So I want to fast forward a little bit. You played for the Israeli national team. You played in the WBC. What was that like? What were some of those experiences like in terms of just playing against other cultures and experiencing different personalities? How has that impacted you today in terms of you know how you like to develop players and where you want to take Team Israel baseball?
Yeah, so it was a nice culmination of my career to now being the director of player development and to
Hmm.
helping players in Israel, giving them a roadmap if they want to play for the national team, if they want to play in the US and play in college. And so playing in long time indie ball minor league player for 9 years and didn't make it to the big leagues, but being able to play internationally, that was the way I cap off my career to give my career sense of finality was being able to play for Israel. And what a cool way to end my career playing for something bigger than just myself or just trying to play so I can make it to the big leagues, but playing for something that's greater and that opportunity. And whether it's in business, whether it's in sports or music, whatever industry people are in, that feeling of doing something that's bigger than yourself, and to feel that sense of camaraderie is an energy that I'll never forget, and I get to still be a part of it with so many great people that I've met with lifelong friends, and being able to work with you, Miles and Danny, and in the IBA doing camps and clinics, showcases in the Chicagoland area, and we're doing them nationwide. So also to give other players in the U.S., and that's Israel Baseball America is what we're doing now is to give those young players just like we were. Maybe they don't have Israeli citizenship and can't play for the national team, but they can still have a platform to be proud of their Jewishness and as baseball players. And to give them that platform, I would have ate it up. I would have done it when I was young and playing, um, and and I'm proud that I actually got the chance to play for Israel. And I want, if any young kid wants that opportunity, I want to be able to provide them that roadmap.
Absolutely. Great answer. Just Israel Baseball America, I think, is a really good initiative that was started and much needed here. And, just to kind of go off what you were saying before, Mitch Glasser, the baseball player, I just want to take a step back and, kind of ask what is your, a day in the life like of director of player development in Israel baseball? You getting blown up with emails or videos of guys like their huddle. Oh, hey, like, take a look at me, kind of like a hoop mixtape, but for baseball. What is a day in the life of that and how does it look?
Yeah, so we have at Israel Baseball America is a great team. The founders and the COO are Nate Fish and Adam Gladstone. And Nate Fish, if you don't know him, you need to know him because he is the king of Jewish baseball. And so look that up, the king of Jewish baseball. That is Nate Fish, and he is a dynamic leader and a creative and an amazing baseball person, and lived in Israel and helped guide the baseball program in Israel and try to help shape it. And And now he lives back in the US. So he's trying to find that way to give back and to help grow the game from the US. And he's also, I should know, he was also the third base coach for the Olympic team. He's currently the manager for the senior national team, in addition to his role as CEO and being the brains and the creative direction of Israel Baseball Americas and how to make those relationships. And it's a lot of raising money. It's so we can keep growing the game in Israel. All those initiatives in the US, whether it's merchandise, those camps, clinics, showcases that I mentioned, going forward, it's teams, all those initiatives. The idea is to be able to support organically growing the game in Israel. And so what's the day in life? So it's those guys, Adam Gladstone, COO, who has as a baseball guy in the professional game, was a general manager in the Atlantic League and was the COO, saw every little detail of my Israel baseball journey. Adam Gladstone was the guy behind the scenes orchestrating everything. And so these two guys are a great pair. And so they're the full-time guys that are leading the charge. And then there's just a great group of alum that played for Team Israel that are also part of this program. So that's cool. It's good. It's a way to stay involved and stay in touch with your teammates. So that's guys like Josh Zide, who are the director of pitching, Asaf Longart, who's a current player, John Moscott's the director of technology. And then you have guys like Adam, you have our director of scouting, Alex Jacobs. All the incoming, if I get an incoming lead, and I get like that huddle or I get that email, that YouTube video, you send it to Alex Jacobs and these college players, current professional players, because it's not just my role is more focused on working with the coaches and staying in touch and seeing what their needs are. The coaches in Israel for the under 15, under 18, under 23 senior national team, but it's also putting everything together for the WBC, for the senior national team, and getting those rosters together for the different tournaments that we play in. So we cast a wide net, but my focus primarily is the nitty gritty, is trying from Chicago, trying to know, hey, what can we do to help those coaches so that they can best help their players? If they're missing something, I want to be that line of that first line where I can go, okay, hey, you guys, whether it's equipment, whether it's player development things and support for throwing programs, hitting programs, I want to be strength programs, mental skills. So all those players that I mentioned, and there's more guys, and there's other guys that can get involved, former alum, that the plan is that players in Israel, they can have mentors that are former players that they can stay in touch with, because it's not so easy from Israel, the time difference, to just, we maybe take it for granted that we are able to watch baseball at 7 o'clock or during it's not that simple when you're in Israel. Sure, yes, we have phones, we have the internet, but it's something different when it's not really a part of your culture. It's just not on the TV when you turn it on. So just different ideas to help the players and the coaches have the access and the tools to develop into better players, better, and down the line, better coaches, and maybe selfishly, it's these players in the US here say, hey, Israel baseball is a thing, because we just need more coaches to help develop the game at a youth level too, from T-ball and up. So getting more American players that grew up playing the game, that have maybe that sense, and dynamic people that maybe one day want to move to Israel and be those coaches or players. That's also part of the plan.
That sounds like the best job on the planet for many, many reasons. But
I should say I am also I am a full-time real estate professional as well. So like once I stopped playing, my goal was to get into college coaching. So and I guess it's not a terrible platform to say this, because I didn't think I'd get into real estate private investment, which is what I got into. And I only got that opportunity because of Israel baseball. I shouldn't say only because of, but I got linked to my boss, the president and founder of JDI, which is the real estate group that I work for. Jeff Ader was a huge supporter of Israel baseball, and he's a Chicago guy. And so I met him over COVID. So just on the phone, because somebody that I knew said, hey, do you know Jeff Ader? He's a huge supporter of Israel baseball. I know you're involved. I was like, I don't know who that is. You should talk to him. So I talked to him and talked a little bit about life after baseball. But I still had a foot in the door in baseball. I was thinking about life after baseball because I saw the writing on the wall. I wasn't going to make the big leagues. But maybe it was like a little early networking. And Jeff said, if once I'm done playing, ever need any guidance, to give them a call. And so after I was done playing, so after the Olympics, I finished my season in Sioux Falls. I was still playing indie ball as a player coach. I was playing for the Sioux Falls Canaries. And after the end of that season, right, the season ended, flew to Italy for the European Championships. And that was some of the most fun ever had playing baseball, was European Championships. Israel got a silver medal in that European Championships with an incredible amount of Sabras on paper. Not as good of a team as definitely not as good of a team as the Olympics, definitely not as good of a team that we had in the European Championships in 2019 to qualify for the Olympics. Somehow it was just a great group. So after I was done playing, started networking, and because of my connection to Jeff, I got a job offer from a different group. And I said, "Oh, I should call Jeff and see what he thinks, see if he knows these guys." And so that was my connection. And Jeff said, "Hey," in short, he said, "It's a great offer, but work for me." And so I'm in this amazing office in Chicago, smaller shop, and it's a very pro-Zionist, very Zionist office where with a lot of Jewish sports baseball memorabilia all over the place. So it was a natural fit for me, and it's been a great learning ground in this professional foray in real estate, while also having incredible support for continuing to stay involved in Israel baseball.
That's a great story, and that's really cool how playing baseball and being Jewish brought that connection on. And I think that's our goal with this podcast too, it's just
Yeah.
not baseball fans. It's Jewish, people and baseball. And I think that story combined what this podcast is trying to do. And, it's actually kind of leading into my next question. I know that, the Israel baseball teams now, especially the younger one, I do believe got asked to not come to a tournament because of the sole fact that they were from Israel, I believe. Is that correct?
Yeah, it was put forth that it was just security concerns to have the team play in the tournament in Germany, and so that was tough for our guys, and so finding other opportunities for that team to supplement that, and so that's tough. I mean, that's right. That's the post October 7th world that we're living in right now, 2+ years later, and so I think that we are it's a different reality that we're in. I grew up and maybe different from you guys. Everyone has a different story, and I know you guys have different feelings, but I always, when I was playing and even growing up, I went to Bernard Zell on Shamit in Chicago. So I maybe it was in a sheltered where everyone was Jewish that I grew up around, and
Mm-hmm.
I played baseball with from Mexicans, Puerto Ricans, black guys, from all different backgrounds, where I was the only Jewish kid. But no one was. It wasn't like a negative thing that I was Jewish, or even in locker rooms, going in different professional locker rooms I was in. Maybe I'm the token Jew, but that's just kind of, I don't know if it's locker room talk, but people kind of naturally segregate, but you're always together. And so you kind of more joke, but I never felt anti-Semitism or felt anti wherever I was. If anything, it was more pro, like, hey, I stand with Israel, or it's
Mm-hmm.
my Christian buddies on the teams that are interested in the Old Testament, and you're Jewish, so you're like so you believe in Jesus, or like, what do you think about Jesus? And so I became this representative, even though I was no spiritual guide. So it was good because it kind of forced me to get educated and look up so I
Yeah.
can make arguments. And like any good Jewish kid, you got to be able to argue a little bit. So I never felt that. Or going to different towns I played in, whether it was Gary, Indiana, or Cleveland, Texas, Joplin, Missouri, and all these little small towns I would travel to in between. In Lincoln, Nebraska, someone came down from the stands and said, "Hey, Mitch Glasser, and like I saw you play for Israel. I just want to let you know we stand with Israel." And this is in probably 2017. And sure, I guess there's always something going on with Israel. So, but it's different from what it is now. So it was always powerful to hear those comments, but nothing truly anti-Semitic, except for maybe like Hava Nagila when I'm on the road, and it's like my walk-up music and as a joke. But so that's might be the most. That's more stereotyping. I wouldn't say it's anti-Semitic,
And
um, but anyways, what I'm getting at is always my whole life really never feeling like it was bad to be Jewish or scared to be Jewish. But then after October 7th, it's like, hey, like I live on a busy street, and is it dangerous to have mezuzah outside my door? Like, just the thought of that, that's a terrible thing. We shouldn't feel that way. Hey, do I want to put a menorah in my window because I'm at street level? So like, as you can see the window in my background. But so those are thoughts that we don't want these young Jewish kids to have, and so we're able to use baseball as a way to forget the politics, but just to bring kids together to be able to express themselves through baseball and a different way to connect to their Jewishness.
Yeah, so I love that. I think you know, it's funny that you talk about that. Baseball gave me a sense of identity. I remember the three of us spoke a few weeks ago, just referring to this episode. Baseball gave me a sense of belonging, and then I was adopted into a Jewish family. Hearing that is one of your goals. It's super important. So in terms of I think we understand your goals in terms of where you want this to go in the future. My question is specifically on the baseball field in terms of the performance. What are you hoping? Where are you hoping that Team Israel baseball is at in terms of just performance? Are there expectations as to where we want them to go in the WBC? We know that's a very competitive tournament. If there's another European tournament that you guys want to go gold for, what is I guess I'll say more short term baseball specific goals that you have for Team Israel baseball? Because in my opinion, I think we're kind of cooking right now. I think we got some very talented guys coming up, and even at the showcase we were at, it was just very promising.
Is the limit, Mike?
Yeah, no, it's I think we've had a lot of success recently,
Yeah.
and and some of that success, or a lot of that success is because there are American Jewish ball players that got Israeli citizenship and have been the backbone of those teams. And that's on the national team stage. And so on the WBC team, and it's an important distinction for everyone, is the World Baseball Classic is sanctioned by MLB. And in order to represent Israel, you have to be eligible for Israeli citizenship. And in order to be eligible for Israeli citizenship, you have to have a Jewish grandparent or be married to someone who's Jewish. So that opens up the door for a lot of major league players. So our team is getting more and more stacked. So currently on a call today, we're talking about who we have a list of 50 guys for the World Baseball Classic that we're reaching out to, and we're finalizing who the manager is going to be. And so that kind of dictates how do we go out and try to get these top guys. So you think of who are the top Jewish baseball players around the guys. Obviously, there's the guys that have played for Team Israel in the past, but then you think about trying to get maybe those bigger names. That guy in Boston, I don't know if he's playing second base or third base, but like a guy like Bregman, he has a chance to play for USA or Israel. So how do you convince a guy like that to try to play for Israel? And so that is the way to, but we're in a really tough a bracket for the World Baseball Classic. And we had one win in 2023 when we were in Miami in that qualifier against Nicaragua. And then I think they'll probably, but it's a tough bracket that we're going to be in. Obviously, would love to. It's baseball; anything can happen. The World Baseball Classic is tough. It's major league talent or high level minor league guys that we need to draw, and trying to get the best pitching. Dean Kramer is a star with the Orioles, but pitching is tough. You need a lot of it in the World Baseball Classic with pitching limit and pitching restrictions. So that's World Baseball Classic. And then moving over to the senior national team and the under 23, under 18 and down for the national teams, you need to have an Israeli passport, which means that you need to have citizenship. And so for me, I got my citizenship in 2019, and at that time, I'm older than 22 years old. If you get your citizenship before you're 22 years old, then you have to do military service. And so, which is another complication with developing our younger talent in Israel is military service. Everyone serves in the military. So that's a hindrance for some younger guys that might want to play in the national teams that are American, is if they try to get citizenship because they're eligible, because they're Jewish, because they have a Jewish parent, or an Israeli parent, is whether or not they want to serve in the military. So by the time, if you're a high level player, college, minor league, or playing and you're older than 22, you get your citizenship. Well, you're eligible to play on the national team now. So, but it's fun as we're going through our extended rosters now and looking at the talent that we can draw from and trying to make that best possible team. And so, yeah, our goal now, it's fun. Our goals is to win those tournaments, and there's some strong talent. The Dutch are always incredibly strong,
Hmm.
and Great Britain's getting stronger. Germany's always strong. Italy, and so Spain, and so there's a lot of the did I say Czech Republic? Because I think the Czech Republic they beat us in the last European Championships, which was actually in the end of September of 2022, right before October 7th. We were in the Czech Republic, and our team was not as strong on paper. And so going in there is like, yes, of course we want to win, but really we just don't want to get relegated, which is we don't want to go down to Pool B. And so we just want to make sure we get through Pool A, and we end up getting through in the first pool. So finishing in sixth place in that European Championships. And so just working on improving on that finish. And it's tournament baseball, guys. Like anything can happen, and you need good pitching, good defense, and timely hitting. It's like any other baseball game we ever played, but it's tournament style baseball. And so you gotta but what Israel always has, and what's every team I've been on is you always outperform what you have on paper. And it's whether it's the energy in the dugout, it's some intangible that's really hard to put your finger on, but it's really fun to be around. And I think everyone feels that, watching WBC, watching as a fan, you feel that there's something that's special about it.
That's so exciting. I just, it just, this makes me smile just hearing you talk about it. And so, I guess sort of staying on this topic in terms of the roster, how tough is it to make some of these decisions? Because we're seeing, Israeli baseball evolve. It's really evolving, and it's growing. And you mentioned the WBC roster. Like, how tough is that? Because guys are in spring training. They talked about this on MLB Network during the last WBC about fans complaining that they don't want their players in the WBC because we saw guys getting injured and all these other things. How difficult is it just to put together these rosters with all the different factors that you have to deal with?
Yeah, well, it's a good question. I'm going through that right now,
Yeah.
and a lot of it's going to be up to the skipper and reaching and seeing what guys we can get, and then seeing, trying to work on that list from the top down and rank those players and the players we want and create that uh, the depth chart and how we can go about it. But of course, you want players that want to be there, that want to represent Israel, that get it, and so you can create that special energy and the experience in the World Baseball Classic. And I only did this in the qualifying rounds. I didn't get to it, but it's a major. You get major league treatment, and so I think it's special for those minor league guys,
Yeah.
because they get a taste of the big leagues, and then for those big league guys, I don't know how it feels. I wasn't a big league guy, but the difference of what I will say is I went as a fan in 2023, my first time watching Team Israel as a fan. So that was cool after playing and just enjoying it and seeing some of my friends on the field and being in Miami. And I went to the Dominican Republic versus Venezuela game, and it was electric. And yes, it was in Miami, so that's also part of it. But it was just such a cool brand of baseball and some of the most fun baseball. And then I loved it. And then for those people, that are listening that watch the World Baseball Classic, to watch those finals, that was some of the most fun baseball to watch, the Japanese versus the US, and just great baseball games. And it gets back to that thing. It's like playoff baseball in March. No wonder these
Yeah.
guys are getting hurt, because there's just that little extra bit of adrenaline.
Yeah.
Um, but MLB is certainly onto something, and I'm so glad this exists. But you're right, Miles. Like there's it's a little scary for these guys who are getting paid some huge contracts, and for them to get
Yeah.
hurt and to miss out on the season. But maybe it's worth it, because hockey just did it, right? You saw it in
Four
hockey.
nations.
Oh, what it was called was the Canadians in the U.S., and I think it was the Swedes had a team, and maybe this is the Finnish.
Yeah, it was the four.
And
It was called the four. I think it was the four seasons or something like that. Something really cool
and it was
like that.
amazing. And these guys, but hockey players are built different. So, but mid-season, have them stop to do something like that. But I think MLB's onto something, and so To get back to your question, Miles, the roster construction is, yeah, it's not an easy task, and it's all hands on desk and on on deck and at the desk trying to make these phone calls, and because our network is so wide right now, it's like, oh, hey, who's this player who, as a former Israel alum, has a connection to that guy? They can make that first phone call and make the introduction, see what interest is like. So that's the technique right now, and hopefully we have some nice announcement coming on the skipper who will lead the way.
I'm excited about that.
It's certainly exciting. I'm excited to watch it again next year.
I think I'm speaking for both Miles and I. We're saying we're very excited to see who's the final roster and who gets to manage and lead the Israel baseball team in the WBC, because as you said, there is such a different level of competition. I guess one more question I had for you is, do you think with this October 7th happening, because as Jewish people, we're very prideful people, and one of those intangible things maybe in the locker room is that pride and is that hunger to represent the name on the front of the jersey instead of the back. And my question is, do you think that some of these MLB guys who are Jewish, like Bregman, Jock Peterson, Kramer on the Orioles, see this anti-Semitism, this hate that is geared towards Jews? Do you think that lights a fire under them and saying, I want to go play with Team Israel, I want to represent Israel, and it's time to be Jewish, go out there and just compete?
Yeah, I hope so. But also it's everyone's built a little different. And maybe some people are like, do I really want to, if people don't know, do I really want to put that out there? Everyone's different. But I certainly hope so, Danny. I think it's a great time to do it. Bregman post October 7th in the playoffs, he put the Star David on the side of his hat, and that ended up being a big deal. I remember hearing about him getting hate messages because of that, which is just ridiculous to me. But he put himself out there, and I hate having victim based identity. I don't like to base my identity on something bad that happened. Hey, I'm not just Jewish because of, and show my Jewishness because of October 7th, or even go a little further because of the Holocaust, or go even further or whatever it is. Because I don't think that stands through the test. I think it's more short term and not as strong, versus basing that identity. And now you throw your baseball identity in there, and it's another sense of belonging. Like Miles said, like the baseball gave him a sense of belonging, his identity. So whether it's just the culture, whether it's the food, whether it's the traditions, whether it's the holidays, and now we're giving another element. We're giving the baseball in there, but also if it does take a tragedy to spark it, to spark that connection and get people interested and say, hey, maybe it is time to explore that side of my past or my ancestry to see why it's important. There's certainly nothing wrong with that. And because for me, my connection to my Jewishness, it started because I went to a Jewish day school, so I learned Hebrew. I wasn't a practicing observant Jew. I went to holidays. I was bar mitzvahed. I remember in the first World Baseball Classic qualifier, going around and people are kind of comparing their Jewishness and getting I think it was Cody Decker that came up with the idea with like a J score. Like, how Jewish are you? And because I mean, there was a guy on that team that had like a cross tattoo on his back too, but he's Jewish and played for and could play for Israel still because he qualified. But Christians, Jews, Muslims, Druze, there's so many cultures that can consider themselves Israeli. It's not just Jews. And so that's important to say. There's no reason why we couldn't have Christian or a Muslim, or shoot, even a Palestinian play for the Israeli team. That there's nothing that says that can't happen. You don't have to be Jewish to play for the Israeli team, but certainly that is the case for the most part. But it's my connection to my family that is part of that identity and that connection to Judaism. So if baseball is another category where, wow, it's not like there's baseball on one side and Judaism on the other side, but you can put it together. It's
Yep.
a no-brainer, and it's special. I think for the three of us here on the podcast, I think that's and that's why we're here today.
That is absolutely why we are here today. You know what? I actually do have one more question. Did you ever go on Birthright?
I did. I went with my cousin. What year was it? I think it was 20. 2010, I think was the year. I'm looking at my wife right now to ask her what year it was. But yeah, 2010. I went with my cousin. I went with my cousin, and just an amazing experience. Are
Yeah.
you going, did you go, Miles?
So I went twice. I went once as a participant, then I went again as a staff member leading everyone through. It was amazing. It was amazing. I think for me, when I went on Birthright, that just added more pride, for me, just because it was amazing. You land in Israel and we were in the kibbutz and it was just, partying in Jerusalem. I was there on Purim and it was insane. I didn't know Jerusalem partied. I didn't know that. I did not know any of these things. And so I get there and it was it was great. It was just a great experience. And yeah, yeah. So I just wanted to ask that question. Danny, do you have anything else?
I don't think so. Again, Mitch, I just want to thank you so much for coming on and talking
Thank you.
about Israel Baseball Americas, what it meant for you to be Jewish in and playing baseball. And I think our listeners are really going to appreciate the knowledge that you bring. And I think that they're very lucky to have someone like you who, to me and Miles, like I view you as a mentor that,
Absolutely.
really showed me that it's okay to be Jewish in baseball. And you've kind of fueled my fire to make a difference
Yeah.
and change the world in a way that I personally never thought that I could. I always was afraid of putting myself out there. In the first episode, I talked about in college how I was kind of afraid to say, hey, I'm a Jewish guy on the Iowa club baseball team, probably being the first Jew half of you met. I
Yeah.
was afraid of, the hate or, the responses I'd get. And now looking back, meeting you, getting involved with Israel Baseball America, I don't want a kid now who's, let's say, even in elementary school to go up and grow up and be scared because that's not fun either. Always thinking always looking over your shoulder and always really worried about what people think of you. And honestly, the truth of the matter is, I don't really think they care that much. So I just, want to thank you for coming on and thank you for changing my life in such a positive way.
Well, thank you, both you guys, for also being ambassadors for Israel baseball, for Jewishness and baseball, and melding those two identities. So thank you guys as well, and for being part of the IBA family. So, and should add, if anyone's interested in getting involved and finding ways to help Israel baseball, please reach out to Danny, to Miles, to me, or through them to me, and find ways to get involved. Thank you guys for creating this platform.
Once again, Mitch, thank you very much. This is an honor. I hope to do this again. I got so many more questions that I want to ask you. I'm not going to waste them all right now. I'm sure we're going to have tons of questions come February, March next year, but we'll save it until then. And until next time, thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.